Hey guys, Lady Lee here from Lady Lee's Home. In this video, we are going to make kale pesto. This is the pesto recipe that I use for pretty much any kind of greens that I want to turn into pesto. It can be parsley, basil, cilantro, chard. You can use all kind of greens, and pretty much the same recipe, just replace the greens. The recipe is on the blog and I will link to it below. And I'll link to a few other pesto recipes. Again, just the same thing, just with other kind of greens. I love doing this. First, I make it for the farmers market and everyone just love pesto. Second, I use it as a way to preserve some of my greens. If you grow a lot of greens, you know that sometimes it's hard to preserve them. You can have a whole lot of, excuse me, a whole lot of kale. And yes, you can steam it and freeze it. And there's a few other ways to preserve it. You can dehydrate them, but I don't know. Sometimes it's hard to figure out, ways that that you can preserve greens and kind of take them out of the freezer and whatever and use them right away. Pesto is a great way to do that because it's really easy to freeze it. So a lot of times if I have a lot of basil during the summer, which I always do because basil is so easy to grow, I just make a whole lot of pesto and then put it in the freezer, and it's easy to just grab a container and use it as a paste. I make pasta sauce with it. We just use it on crackers or a toast or whatever. Again, some ideas on how to use pesto are on the blog and I'll link to them, but if you're here, then you probably already know how to use it. Okay, so I'm gonna make this recipe with almonds. Traditional pesto, basil pesto recipe is made with pine nuts, but really you can use pine nuts, you can use walnuts, you can use almonds. I like to use almond flour because it's already kind of ground and it's affordable and it tastes really good too. So we're just gonna need half a cup of almond flour, half a cup of Parmesan cheese, and you can replace that with a Asiago, or if there's any other kind of hard cheese that you like, you can use that. But Parmesan is really easy to come by and available for us, so I use Parmesan. And then 2 to 3 cloves of garlic. I cut the bottom and peeled them. And I'm just going to throw them in there like that. You can use 2, you can use 3, you can use 4, however many you want, depending on how much you like garlic. Then you need your greens. We're only going to season it with salt and pepper. That's all we need. And then, of course, olive oil. This is a 14-cup food processor. And just to give you an idea, so this is like 14 cups. I used in this recipe a bag of kale that I bought from the store because I don't have kale in my garden at the moment. This bag is 16 ounce and I think about half a bag will fit here. So about 8 ounce of leaves. If you harvest your own kale and use that, then make sure to just use the leaves. You don't want to use the stems. You can, but I think it turns out better if you just use the leaves. Okay, so to this we're just going to add the half a cup of almond flour and half a cup of Parmesan cheese. And then, and then the garlic. And then about half a teaspoon or 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt, and we can correct seasonings later, so that's not a big deal, but you can start with half a teaspoon. And then about half a teaspoon of black pepper, and again we will check and correct seasonings once this becomes a paste. I'm gonna add a little bit of olive oil just to help the food processor start. Maybe about 1/4 cup, something like that. And then we're gonna close it. I'm gonna start processing it. And as the kale is processed, I am going to keep adding olive oil a little bit at a time until it reaches the desired consistency. That's it, you guys. All that is left to do is add it to jars. I like to keep it in a jar, but you can also keep it in a plastic container. And some people like transferring it to ice cube trays and then freezing it in ice cube trays, and then you can just take 1 cube of pesto out at a time instead of using like a whole thing. But I'll probably store this jar in the fridge, and then maybe the rest I will put in a container and freeze. So that's it. It's a super simple recipe and a really good way to prepare and preserve greens. I will have the post with the picture tutorial and a printable recipe on the blog, so you can check that out, and that will be in the description of the video below. And I hope you'll give it a try. It's super simple and a really yummy way to process greens. I'll see you again in the next one. Bye-bye.